Hi guys, welcome back to Sin and Tonic. Thank you for joining me again this week. Last week was heavy. Today's story is that of Jeremy Bramber, or the White House farm murders, if you like. Sin and Tonic! Dog has joined us today. I think for the last couple of videos he's not been bothered. I normally quite like a story where it's like, oh, that happened, you can see why that happened maybe, blah 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 blah, bish bosh bash, and then they admit to it, or they're like, it's just like, yeah, 100% that person did it and they are in prison. Goody. That's what I like. I like that normally. I'm like, Researching and reading up about this case this morning has got me like, you know what? Just so many layers to it. One first inspection, you think you know exactly what's going on, and then you have no clue. So let's dive into it. Let's go. How am I going to do this? Let's start with the family. The father, Neville Bramber. The mother, June Bramber. They were both 61 at the time of their deaths. Sheila Caffell, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. She was 28 at the time of her death. And very sadly, two young boys. They were 6 when they died, and that is Nicholas and Daniel. They are Sheila's sons, twin boys. And this all went down in Essex, England, the UK. I forgot the main man himself, Jeremy Bramber. So Jeremy Bramber and Sheila were adopted by June and Neville when they were young, when they were babies. Neville and June, they were quite wealthy, and Neville was an ex-RAF pilot, and they owned a farm, the White House farm, and they couldn't have children of their own, so they adopted Jeremy and Sheila. They adopted Jeremy when he was 6 weeks old. A few years later, they adopted Sheila, and they gave her the nickname of Bambi. These two wanted for nothing. Their parents were wealthy, really well off, and they were both provided with a private education. Now, Neville, he really wanted Jeremy to partake in the farming business, and Jeremy lived in a cottage when they were older, in a cottage about 3 miles away from the main farm, rent-free with his girlfriend, I believe, fiance. And the father, Neville, he was like, you can work on the farm and I'll give you £170 a week. But this really angered Jeremy. He wanted to be in charge of the caravan site. So they also had a caravan site. And he wanted to be in charge of that. He wanted to like take a little piece of the business and be in control of it, be in charge of it. And his dad was like, no. He was like, he's not business minded. It's all going to go wrong. No way. You work on the farm and I'll give you £170 a week. It sounds like they were quite strict. Or a lot was said about Jeremy being like this playboy personality. Sounds like he just wanted to have fun, spend money, have a lavish lifestyle, live it up, not have any responsibilities. So perhaps Neville was trying to rein that in a bit, or trying to like make him have an honest living, earn an honest wage. I don't know, but that was the case. So you got Jeremy boy, who's like ladies' man, really suave, charming, quite good looking, has good luck with the ladies. Yeah, no, he's all over it. It was said that Jeremy used his affluent background as a way to like entice women and things like that. So he was just a bit of a show off. Whoa, I nearly spilt my gin. Sheila, she lived in London. So at this time she had moved to London because she was really good looking, really pretty and beautiful. And she was starting a career as a model. So she got a flat in London. She moved there to start her career. She also met somebody, and then she had the twin boys. Super sadly, her marriage broke down after this, and she became very depressed and suffered with quite bad mental health issues. This developed into schizophrenia, which is super sad. It was said that at times she would didn't believe that the devil was in her children and things like that. Because of her mental health issues and all of this big stuff going on in her life, she moved back to the farmhouse with her parents and her 2 boys. Jeremy had a massive issue with his mother because he really couldn't stand being preached at with all the religious stuff. He was not a fan of that at all. And he also never forgave them for sending him away to school. Okay, let's jump to the night in question. There's a lot to go over on this one, so I don't want to dilly-dally on the way. 7th of August 1985, 3:26 a.m. Bramber rings the police. Not 999, he rings the local police station. He reports that he's just had a phone call from his father to say that his sister has gone mad and taken one of his shotguns. I think the best way to do this is to go over the story that's being told, okay? And then we'll go in with what possibly really happened, and then maybe again what possibly really happened as well. So let's do that. So, as it is known, the phone call comes in from Jeremy and a police car is sent out to the farmhouse address. Okay. They meet Jeremy at the farmhouse. They passed him, the Panda cars, en route to the farmhouse. So they drove past, and it was noted that he was driving at 30 miles an hour, casually, not rushing himself at all, and that they were going markedly faster than him. So they got there first, and then a few minutes later, Jeremy arrives at the White House farmhouse. One of Bramber's cousins told the police that Bramber drove very fast, always. So it seemed odd or iffy that having had this phone call from his dad to say that my sister's gone crazy, she's got a rifle, it was odd to her that he was casually driving along at 30 miles an hour, all of a sudden sticking to a speed limit. So that was noted, and that's what the cousin said. Because there was talk of firearms, obviously they're sensible and they wait for a specialist firearm unit to arrive. They arrived at 5 a.m. Just makes me feel tired knowing that this all happened like in the middle of the night as well. Like, the police had a look about, and it was noted that all of the doors and windows were shut apart from the main bedroom window, and that was open. So I don't get this, but they decided to wait until 7:54 a.m. until daylight to go in. They went in through the back door, which was locked from the inside. So that was locked from the inside. So no one's gone out of that door and locked it. It was locked from the inside. The only sound that they could hear then was a dog barking. So while waiting outside, the police question Bramber and they have a chat about everything, and they talk to him about his sister. And he says, like, oh, she's a nutcase, like she's having treatment. And obviously there is truth with this, because Sheila was having a difficult time. She was suffering with schizophrenia and medicated for it. So yeah, there is truth to that. She was, his choice of words may not have been very nice, but she was suffering with mental health problems. So that was true. The police then said to Bramber, why did your dad call you and not us? Why did he not call the police? Good question. Good question. Here's my first, there's going to be many moments of me like, what? So yeah, what? Okay. Because I know what's coming, it's like there's so many things, my brain is, can you see it ticking? It's ticking. So yeah, so why did he not ring the police? Jeremy says that his dad was a bit private and maybe like he was the sort of guy that would have wanted to keep things within the family. Okay, I mean, okay. So again, even more, like they waited till 7:54 to go in, because if your dad has rung you in an absolute state, this is just my personal thoughts on this one, like if your dad's just called you in an absolute state, like your sister's gone mad, she's got a gun, okay, you then think, shit, call the police, right? Which, by the way, he didn't do first. He called his girlfriend first. So you call your girlfriend, then you call the police, then you pootle down there at 30 miles an hour. It's all very suspicious, isn't it? Because if that was me, I'd be like, pegging it down there. I'd call the police. Oh, I was going to say on my mobile phone, but maybe they didn't have phones. When was this? You'd be in a rush. You'd be like, you know, she's crazy, if that's what he thought. She's crazy, she's got a gun, Dad's rung me, I've called the police, off I go, let me in the house. Dad, are you okay? Like, that's how I envision that going down, wouldn't you? So, yeah, like, odd. I mean, yeah, really odd. I don't get it. Sorry. Then it gets even more spicy, because while they're having a chit chat, him and the old police, God, that's really gone to my head today. Anyway, they're having their little convo, and he slips it in there. You know, like it reads like this. This is in how I see it, but it reads a bit like, you know, like when kids are lying to you, like little kids, and they're really crap at it. And I don't know what happened to the biscuits that you left there, because I was definitely upstairs having a wee, and I definitely didn't eat any. Like that. Sounds like that. He is chatting and he says, oh, by the way, Sheila, yeah, she's really handy with a shotgun, is Sheila. She's really handy with a shotgun. Me and her used to go to shooting practice together, so she knows her way around a gun. She knows how to use a gun. She can use a gun. She can use a shotgun. She's really good. And then, by the way, I was there last night, actually, at the farmhouse. I was there, and I happened to load the rifle. So I've loaded the rifle. I've touched the gun. I loaded the rifle. So I put a whole thing of ammunition in it and left a full box of ammo on the kitchen table. So yeah, I loaded the gun, left it on the kitchen table with a full box of ammo. So yeah, I was there last night and that had happened. Yeah. That's how it read to me. It's like, yeah, okay, Jeremy, she can use a gun and you've left a loaded one on the table. We can piece it out together. In the police have gone. They find Neville's body in the kitchen. He's slumped over a chair and he's been shot a lot, sustained many injuries. They suggest that there was an altercation that happened in the kitchen between Neville and whoever shot him. There was like a broken sugar bowl and there was sugar all over the floor. There was chairs upturned, general like mayhem. He had been shot 8 times, 6 times to the head and neck, and all of those shots were close range, very close range. The remaining shots were on his body and they were fired from at least 2 feet away. So due to where the cartridges were found, it was determined that he was shot 4 times upstairs and then another 4 times downstairs. So he was shot upstairs and then he managed to get away and get downstairs, and that's where this scuffle happened, in the kitchen. The phone was left dangling, so like off the hook. More about that later. His jaw was fractured. His teeth, neck and larynx were all injured from this scuffle. And the pathologist said that he would have had a lot of difficulty in talking. Here we go back to the phone call. So did he make this phone call to Jeremy before the incident? In which case that doesn't add up with him being shot 4 of the times upstairs. And also, if he had been shot 4 times upstairs, Jeremy's suggestion is that his dad phoned him from the kitchen to say that he had been shot. I'm making it up now. To say that she had gone mad with a rifle. Did he then return? I'm trying to piece it together. Did he then return upstairs on hearing the shots? Maybe she'd shot her 2 babies in bed, and maybe this woke Neville and he came running downstairs. He rang Jeremy. He tells Jeremy she's gone mad with a shotgun, and then he hears more shots and he suddenly thinks, June, she's upstairs in bed, shit. So he drops the phone and he runs upstairs, and then she shoots him upstairs 4 times. He then comes back downstairs thinking, now I need to call an ambulance or I need to run away. because June's dead and my grandchildren are dead and she's going to kill me. And then he comes into the kitchen and that's where this fight happens. So to me, the fact that, oh, but he was downstairs, the phone call couldn't have happened because he was shot upstairs. Well, I've just explained how that could have happened. So do you know what I mean? However, there's no blood on the telephone. So although I've just explained that, haven't I? Because he hadn't been shot at that point. So, okay, I've explained that. Just call me Detective Safe. So that is a possibility, not one that I've read about. So this guy, he also had like black eyes. He had bruising all over. He had bruising on his arm. He had like shotgun, like burn marks on his back, cuts on his head, bruising on his face. The prosecution did argue that Sheila wouldn't have been able to inflict this much injury on him. And again, I see both sides of this one here because, yes, look at the pictures of her. She is small and she is slight, but you can be small and mighty. And if you are suffering with crazy mental health, it sounds like I'm trying to make it seem like she did it. I'm not. I'm just trying to piece together other ways because it seems like there's a lot of things going on in this case. So, yeah, she could, if you're suffering with mental health and you believe that someone's like the devil or someone's going to kill you, or, you know, if she's looking at her dad and she's seeing something else, and I mean, if it was Sheila and she's just killed her own babies, and she did say that she could see, she thought the devil was in them, it is said. So, you know, this person is not well. And when you are genuinely scared, I mean, I've been genuinely scared once and I had the strength of 100 men. I lifted my son with one arm like this. Like, I swear to God, like if I had to do that tomorrow, I couldn't do it. If I was just me, like, no. But because I was genuinely worried about him and I thought like he was really hurt, I did it. And you just have this superhuman strength. And if you were really, really scared, yeah, strength comes from somewhere. I could see it. Maybe if she thought he was something else that he wasn't, who knows? But yeah, they did say, nah, she's too small, she couldn't have inflicted that much injury. So that was what the prosecution argued. And he was terribly beaten up. Like, there was a lot of injuries. He could have also been shot and injured as well at this point. That's another thing to think about. So if she shot him 4 times upstairs. So if this guy's just been shot 4 times, let's just say that 2 of them were in his body and 2 of them were in his face or head, he's in a lot of pain. He's in no fit state to be fighting somebody off. So Sheila in that situation could very well have had the upper hand over her dad, who was 6'4" and strong and healthy. He's been shot 4 times. So, yeah. Police said that the other 4 bodies were found upstairs. The 2 boys, Nicholas and Daniel, were so sadly they were found in their beds and they had both been shot multiple times in the head. Hopefully they were just still asleep and they didn't know anything. But yeah, so that, and it looks like that was the case. They were found in their beds. Daniel was shot 5 times in the head and Nicholas was shot 3, all close range shots within 2, most of them within 1 foot. Jeremy and Sheila's mother, she was found upstairs in the main bedroom and her body was incredibly bloodstained, like her nightdress and things like that, and the surroundings. Ugh. There are pictures online that you can look at if you so wish. I don't like to share too graphic a picture in my videos because if you want to look at the photos, you can choose to. I chose to whilst eating my ham, cheese and pickle sandwich and then went a bit funny in the head. So don't recommend that. But yes, there are lots of pictures and pictures come up again in this story, interestingly. But yes, so it was very bloody, June's body and her surroundings. She was found in the master bedroom in the, like, going out towards the hallway, so out of bed as if she was going out of the bedroom, and she was in her nightie and barefoot. She had been shot 7 times. Some of these were body shots, like arm, leg, lower neck, arm, 2 shots on the right side of her chest, and one to her right knee, and then 2 shots which would have been fatal, were one between her eyes and one on the side of her head. And from the blood evidence on her clothes, her nightie and stuff, it was said that it was determined that she was sitting up, which is just awful because it means that she wasn't sleeping, she was awake. And obviously, so she'd been shot a number of times and then got out of bed and moved and tried to get away. It's just grim, really sad actually. There is so much controversy around this, and it's easy to see why when you look in further. So let's just carry on along what is thought to have happened. So Sheila is the next body to be found, and police say that they found Sheila's body in the master bedroom. She was in her nightdress, she was barefoot, and she had 2 shots to the throat. Dr. Peter Vainsis, sorry if that's not how you say that, Vainsis, he was the pathologist, and he said that the lower shot was from about 3 inches away. Lower shot. The higher shot was a contact shot. He says that the higher shot would have killed her instantly. The lower shot would not. And so he believes that the lower shot happened first. So the lower one from 3 inches away was the first shot, and then the top one. It was noted that it would be possible for her to, or anybody to if with the lower shot, to get up and move about. So that was noted that it would be possible. However, lack of blood on her nightdress said to the doctor that that was not the case. She had this big wound. If she'd have got up and moved, there would have been blood on her nightdress, and there was not, which doesn't, anyway. He suggested that the stains on her nightdress stated that she was sitting when she was shot. When the police entered, they noted that she was kind of still bleeding from her mouth and her wounds and things. And like the evidence, like if she'd have been shot before 3:30, basically what they were saying is after so many, like you stop bleeding after you've died, like quite quickly. So for her to have like this blood coming out still at 8 or whatever in the morning, when she was meant to have been shot before 3:30, is suspicious, because they're like, that should have be dried, like if she was shot then, or she killed herself then. Do you know what I mean? So what, like when did she die? Like when did she get shot? Like this is crazy. So they say that because the blood was still wet, that she could have been dead no more than 2 hours. And the other bodies, when they were found, were already in rigor mortis and things like that, and hers wasn't. So it suggests that she was shot later. But the police were there later, so she was shot later, like with police outside. This is where it gets odd. Police were outside and they didn't hear any gunshots. There were no marks on her body. Her hands and feet were clean, it was said. She had freshly manicured nails. There was no dirt. There was no powder. There was no grease. She was clean. Her hands had no lead or dust or anything on, which is usual if you're handling a shotgun, so I read. And with the amount of shots fired, Sheila would have had to reload that gun twice. And as the more you reload, the harder it becomes to do, apparently. Again, I have no personal experience. So the prosecution were again saying Sheila couldn't have done this. The amount of strength it would have taken, and there was no evidence that she'd handled a gun whatsoever on her clothes or her hands. There was no evidence of blood or sugar on her feet, and there was broken sugar bowl downstairs. Oh, it's so difficult, this one. And no evidence of any struggle. So her dad didn't even once grab her wrist, or do you know what I mean? There was no forcible marks on her body. The rifle was found lying across her chest, and she had an open Bible laying next to her like that. And the rifle had no sightings on it and no silencer on it, not attached. Now here's where it just gets stupid, even more stupid and stupid. So Jeremy Bramber, oh yeah, they've discovered my whole family dead, and he somehow convinces police to burn and destroy all of the carpets and the evidence and stuff inside the house. Now, even like, I mean, this wasn't in like the 1800s. Why? Like, they were so sure that she had gone berserk and that she was suicidal and that she had shot her kids and her mum and dad and done it, that they were just like, yeah. And from all accounts, this guy, Jeremy, is suave and very manipulative. There was a woman that wrote a book about him, and she said she had communicated with him, and she said he is one manipulative man. She herself said that she's certain he's guilty, and that she'll be the first person to apologise if he is acquitted, and he isn't. But she said he's a very manipulative person. And yeah, he must be good at that, because the police burning like crucial evidence. Even the judge at trial for this one was just like, what, guys, come on? Because yeah, like burnt stuff and bungled things, and honestly, like it did not go well. The lack of, just going back to the lack of like evidence on Sheila, because obviously Jeremy said that Sheila did it, and he's maintained to this day that he's innocent. So my brain just tries to think of ways like, well, could she have done it? Is this like realistic? Is it? Do you know what I mean? But it was argued that in some circumstances, when people like kill their families and their children and things, they take on almost like a cult-like persona. So like it wouldn't be unusual for somebody to do something like that and then to have a wash or have a shower, have a bath, change, put new clothes on to make themselves look decent, and then kill themselves. So DCI Jones, he was in charge of the operation. He was the deputy of CID. He was told that it was a domestic, and he went off to play golf. Okie dokes. He was so convinced that it was a murder-suicide that when Bramber's cousins went to him to ask that he look at the possibility that Bramber set the whole thing up, that he sent them out of his office. He made them go away. He was like, no, not having it. And 3 days later, after the killings, all of the carpets in the house and everything like that were all destroyed. So well done, that man. Oh, and evidence was not preserved whatsoever. No, none of it. The scene of crime officer didn't examine the silencer that was in the cupboard with the guns, apparently, or was it? We don't know. It's such a mess. So that was not examined. And 3 days later, the cousins find the silencer and notice that it's got some red paint on it and blah, 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 and take it in. And they also noted that there was a grey hair on it, but by the time it got there, the grey hair was gone, and that was not looked at either. So what are you going to do? So what a mess. So this silencer becomes a big thing. And you can understand why. Right. So shotguns are noisy. Boom, boom. They're loud. So it was thought that Jeremy had to have a silencer on that weapon. Or Sheila, whatever, one or the other, whoever did the shooting, right? This was argued that they had a silencer on. They reckon that, the prosecution, if the silencer is on that gun, there is no way that Sheila would be able to, with the silencer and the length of the gun, shoot herself. So this kind of clinched a lot for the prosecution, because it was like, well, how the hell did she do that then? How did she do that then? Because in my head, I was like, well, she shot everyone with a silencer on, and then she took the silencer off, shoved it in the cupboard, went upstairs, shot herself without the silencer on. Could that not be a thing? Can we not do that? Can we not do that? There's lots of things in this case where I'm like, these like possibilities like just don't exist in this case. It's like, really? But she could have. But her blood, or was it, was found in the silencer. So they're like, well, okay, that means that would suggest that she shot with the silencer as well. And if that's the case, she couldn't have done it herself. She didn't have a long enough arm. Okey pokes. So this silencer's like such a big deal because if her blood is in it, then she couldn't have possibly shot herself with it because her arm isn't long enough. Right. Okay, so Sheila didn't shoot herself then, so somebody shot Sheila. Yes, but she had wet blood on her face and her neck and nobody else was in the house, or were they? And what? So she could have been, it's too much for me. Too much. Bramber's clothes were not examined. None, never, not until weeks later. Well, they've gone through the washing machine a few times, haven't they? Useless. All of the bodies were cremated. No more evidence there. And all of the blood evidence was destroyed 10 years after the murders. So it really does feel like some people do not want anyone to know what really went down there, don't they? And now I'm scared that I'm talking about it. Ugh. Don't come for me. Then you've got Bramber's behaviour after all of this goes on. So he is seen at the funeral he openly weeps. He broke down at the murder scene when the bodies were discovered and found. He had to be ordered a tea and a whiskey and have a good old cry and break down, apparently he vomited. But after the funerals, he took his girlfriend off to Amsterdam, where he tried to buy a boatload of drugs and to sell on. He then also, the only things that he wanted kept out of all of the possessions and belongings were Sheila, his sister, Sheila's photographs so that he could sell them for soft porn. Right. Okay. I mean, people grieve differently, but okie. So, odd. I mean, this is the guy that's just convinced people to burn carpets and bedding. And honestly, this guy, he's it just feels like, has he got a little device where he can just it's not me. Because it just seems like, the evidence about the silencer all comes into question because people, the experts, some of them are just well, it's not her blood. It could be a mixture of their blood and their blood, or it's her blood. And it's whose blood is it? Is it hers? If it's hers and she was shot with it, it's okay, she couldn't have used the gun to shoot herself. It's kind of crucial, guys. Whose blood is it? Is it hers or is it not? It seems really inconclusive. It's well, if it's inconclusive, then you can't use that, can you? Then you got the girlfriend. You've got the girlfriend of Jeremy Bramber, Julie Mugford. Now, she's all on his side and loving and doting until he decides that he is going to try and get with somebody else in front of her on the phone or something like that. Crazy. Don't forget he's a womanizer, isn't he? So she gets all you've just messed with the wrong bitch. And she goes to the police and she tells them all sorts of things. She tells them that basically Jeremy has always wanted to kill his parents, that he's fantasised about it, he's talked about poisoning them or sedating them and then setting the farmhouse on fire with them in it, and that he suggested that he was going to pay a hitman to commit the murders and do all of this, and that he even knew how to get in the house and then how to get out without people knowing that happened. So that if you then went into the house, you'd be how did anyone get out of here? Because everything's locked from the inside, but he knew how. So she testified all of this, basically that he wanted them all dead, or his parents at least. And she went to town, she was he said this, he said that, blah, blah, blah. And Jeremy, he was a bit love, you've only just decided that all of this, because I've jilted you, basically. And to be fair, a woman scorned and all that, you don't know, do you? But she seemed to really, really, really have a lot to say about this whole thing with him hiring a hitman. And she also said that when she did arrive at the murder scene at the house, the police picked her up, by the way, on the day of the murder and drove her there to Jeremy. And when she arrived, he said to her, I would have made a good actor. So she says. So, okey pokes. And also just the demeanour about him on the phone and things like that. After the murders, when he took her to Amsterdam and all of this was going on, He also was like, he bought the drugs, didn't he? And he was trying to sell his sister's pictures for soft porn. He was treating everyone to like lobster dinners and champagne and stuff. He was like living it up. Again, people grieve differently, but he was arrested on the 8th of September. He was bailed out on the 13th of September, and he went on a holiday to the south of France. When he came back on the 29th of September, he was rearrested and he was charged with the murders. There is said to be logged a phone call from Neville Bramber to the police that night. Now, there's all this weirdness about this phone call. Was it a double log in the system? And really it was the phone call from Jeremy being confused? No, they don't think so. Separate phone lines, separate things. So this evidence suggests that Neville rang the police. He did ring the police and he did say that his daughter was going crazy. Now let's go over some of the points that seem totally iffy. And what? She says, the whole thing has blown my mind. However, the things that we do know, let's start there. The sad fact of it is that 5 people lost their lives. I'm really sorry, the gin has gone to my head. There are things that really don't add up for me. The phone calls, for example, that's really interesting and really spicy, because if Jeremy is correct and telling the truth, and his dad was in the kitchen on the phone to him and he spoke to him, and whether that was when things were going on upstairs before he went upstairs and was then shot. Okay, that's the only way I can see that happening, because there is no blood on the receiver. There's no blood on the receiver of the phone whatsoever. And he says his dad was talking to him and then it went dead. Well, to me, the only way I can see it going down like that is if he was like, oh my God, and ran upstairs and just dropped the phone. So I can see that, and I can see the phone being off the thing. However, Jeremy says that he then rang the police straight away. Well, he rang his girlfriend and then rang the police. But if you've just dropped the phone is still on the hook, isn't it? So I know we all use mobile phones now, but try and remember back to when we had home phonies. If you drop your phone, if you don't hang up, this is what happens. You go, okay, yeah, see you later. All right, Mum. Yeah, bye. Mum, you haven't hung up. Mum. Oh. You go to put the phone, you do that, go to put the phone down. If you then want to make a phone call, hello, Mum, you haven't put the person on the other end has to put the phone down before you can then make a phone call. And it's annoying. And I think it takes, well, in my experience, until they put the phone down, you can't then make a phone call, is what I thought it was. But, I might be wrong there. Maybe after a certain amount of time, it disconnects your end. Anyway, the prosecution were saying that, is that right, the prosecution? Yeah, they were saying, well, look, mate, if that happened, yeah, and your dad rang you, right, and you were like, fuck, first of all, people have like talked to me. First of all, why the hell did you ring your girlfriend first? She says he was a bit like, yeah, oh, something's happened at mum and dad's. Better get down there, as if to say like, they're dead, like, you know, sort of thing. But odd, isn't it? Why did you ring her first? What they're saying is you wouldn't have been able to straight away ring your girlfriend because the phone line's still going. So that would then suggest, because the phone was off the hook when the police went in and had a look about, so that would then suggest that Jeremy possibly went there, shot his entire family, went about, this is the prosecution's idea, went about making the house look like it was Sheila that had done it. So posed her body, Bible there, that looks good, doesn't it? She was going to kill herself. Gun, get it all right, position her right, get it all done. Sort out downstairs, phone off the hook, because Dad's going to ring me and then I'm going to say the phone went dead. Goes back to the cottage. They reckon he cycled on his mum's bike, which he kept on borrowing and kept on using to flip between. Important to note that, because That's what his girlfriend said, that he would use his mother's bike. I'm just getting comfortable now. This gin is really getting to me. This is a bit of a pissed one, basically. Yeah, so the girlfriend was like, oh, he kept using his mum's bike to go between. So they reckon then that he did that, got on his mum's bike, tootled over back to the cottage, and then rang the police. So there was no bother with like whether a phone was off the bloody hook or not, because he'd done that at the house to make it look right. Backfired, Jeremy. Anyway, there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. Cut and edit. No more gin for me. So, as you can tell, or by the change in outfit and the coffee instead of gin, it's the next day, because I hadn't eaten any lunch yesterday, and I was filming and I was drinking that gin, and it was really going to my head, and I could just feel myself like getting a bit like silly and like really buzzy on the old gin, and I'd made it really strong as well. I was feeling a bit spicy, obviously. So I just suddenly thought, all of a sudden, I was like, we're talking about people that have been murdered and children that have been murdered. And I didn't want to be disrespectful and get giddy and like really silly with it. And I could feel myself like losing my process and my thought like really quickly. So I was like, I need to stop. And I need to stop, I need to enjoy my gin and then come back to the story tomorrow, because my brain was just like not focusing properly at all. It is a bit of a case where you're like, what? Like, but when you've had a strong gin on an empty tummy, it's even more like that. So I've made notes today to wrap up. I honestly didn't think I was going to sleep, because it's one of those ones where, like I said, I just want to know what happened. And you just can't, you just don't. It's just, there's so many questions. But anyway, let's go through the notes. So before we talk about what happened to Jeremy after his arrest, let's go with some theories that came up. And I am enjoying my coffee this morning. The controversy around the phone calls is kind of like a big deal, because it's like, well, if Neville rang the police at, I'm checking my notes, 3:26. So there's a log, a handwritten log from a police officer saying that at 3:26, a gentleman called and said that his daughter was going berserk with a gun. Daughter, right. So that was at 3:26, and a car was sent out from that phone call. Then at 3:27, there's another log, and that is from Jeremy, the phone call that Jeremy made from his cottage, saying that my dad's called me, saying that my sister's gone berserk with a gun. Now, there's differences in the phone calls and things that were said. One was daughter, one was sister. So this would suggest that Neville did ring the police. He made the phone call, I think, to 999, and he had called them, and then he called Jeremy, and then Jeremy called the police as well. But Jeremy, and this is where weird questions come in, he didn't ring 999. No, he rung the local police station. He looked the number up to ring them. Now that is odd. Why would you do that? You would ring the 999 if you were really worried. So a lot of theorists say that it was Jeremy that made the phone call from the farmhouse, pretending to be his dad, saying, oh, my daughter's gone crazy. He then went back to the cottage and called the police from the cottage 10 minutes later as himself. But because, now this is what, stay with me. So back in the old day, like now, you can trace phone calls left, right and centre. It's so easy, but it wasn't so easy then. So what they're saying is like he might have thought that by ringing 999 at the farmhouse, but then going home and ringing 999 to the police station, he would get a different police officer, which is what happened, and they wouldn't be able to like say, didn't I just speak to you? Like, and it would be because it's the same person. So that is what some people think, that he made both phone calls, but the first one he was pretending to be his dad. But to throw a spanner in the works there a little bit, if he'd have used the main road from the cottage to the farmhouse, he could have done it in 10 minutes. But they reckon that he would have been spotted and people, all the locals would have said, oh yeah, we saw Jeremy. So if he'd have been on a bike or his car, they would have spotted him and they would have known and been like, yeah, we saw Jeremy. Like, you know, they did door-to-door knocks and things like that, and nobody saw Jeremy or a car at that time. So then it suggested that he went a different route on a bicycle. So he went from the farmhouse to his cottage, like a back way, so he wouldn't be seen. But they argued that that would have taken longer than 10 minutes. And these two calls were logged at 3:26 and 3:27. They were 10 minutes apart. The policeman that noted the time of the phone call said he could have made an error. Well, that's kind of pretty bloody important, isn't it? Did he ring at 3:26? Did he ring at 3:27? Was it 3:37? All of these things matter, because if Jeremy made his phone call at 3:37, that gave him 20 minutes to go from the farmhouse to his cottage and make that phone call, which he could have well done. But if it was at 3:47, don't I? You know what I mean? If the policeman got the timing wrong on any of these phone calls, it makes a dramatic difference to the case. So another error here in this one. Honestly, it's terrible. Let's move on. The moving gun. Now this intrigues me. So in lots of crime scene photographs, the gun's here, it's there, it's on her, it's next to her. The gun's in all different, like, what are you doing? No. Oh my God, have we watched, I mean, I know this was a while ago, but like CSI? Have we ever watched CSI? Do you know what I mean? And I do worry about this, because there is somebody in prison serving a whole life sentence for this. And what if? You know, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? It happens all the time. But it's so like, yeah, it's an odd one. I kind of feel like, yeah, it's just really tricky. Anyway, the moving gun. In some crime scene photographs, again, you may look online if you wish to, they are there. The gun is on Sheila. Her head is slightly to one side like this, and the gun is on her with her hand on it and sort of going up this way. And it's, you know, her head has moved to the side. And that is the first crime scene photograph that I saw is of the gun on top of her body with her hand on it. And it's the picture that looks most like she shot herself in the neck. Then you've got another photograph with the gun next to her with her hand like slightly on it, and same sort of position. So, well, did it fall off? And mistakes happen in any profession. We are all human beings. Like, do you know what I mean? So oh Christ, you know, you can imagine it, can't you? Like, oh my God, the gun's fallen off. Oh, you know, but then why would you take another photo? So that's the situation with that part of the gun. Next, there's photos with the gun just like leant up against a window. Well, what? Why? What? If you're taking photographs of, oh my God, the dog scared the crap out of me then. If you're taking photos of the rest of the property for evidence, the gun isn't, it's not there. It was on her, wasn't it? It was never there. So it was, or was it there? When was that photo taken? You know, it's just, come on. Whew. Didn't think I'd be as irate by this one today without gin in me, but I am. Next one, the Bible. In the crime scene photographs, the Bible is next to Sheila. It has some blood on it. And when you zoom in, there's a handwritten note in said Bible. Okay, great. So what does that say? Don't know. Oh, that was all destroyed. What? Suspicious. 100%, 110%. Oh, and there were fingerprints on that. Yeah, there were. But bloody fingerprints. But, oh, that's gone. So to me, when you just take little pieces of the story, you can think, oh my God, because it's like, well, hang on, why, if that fingerprint in blood, because the prosecution and everyone seems to want Jeremy in prison, if the fingerprint on that Bible, it wasn't Jeremy's, it was Sheila's, and that would then prove that she had murdered her family, blood on her hands, literally, Bible, handwritten suicide note saying that she's killed everyone, and that's all conveniently gone missing. But we can't do that because we have said that he killed everybody. Do you know what I mean? It's all a big jumble. This one's just awful. This was just like, if everything had been done at the scene on the day, this wouldn't have been a case. They didn't test his clothes, because I just think if you've killed people and had a massive altercation with your dad, you'd have blood on you, you would have blood on your shoes, or surely just messiness. No. So, like, did anyone search anywhere for his clothes? He probably burnt them if he did do it, like burnt all his shoes and his clothes. Like, he had 3 weeks where he was like not, like that was not the thing. So yeah, like, okay, anything could have happened to his clothes, to be fair. On that note, it was said that Sheila was clean. She had no residue on her hands from the gun or things like that, and her feet were clean, it was said. However, there are then photographs that emerge where she's got blood on her feet. So, well, that's not clean feet, is it? What is it, guys? What is it? So that was just like, oh, all of the family had no food in their tummies, left in their tummies, but Sheila did. So did she have a late night snack, washed her hands, made something to eat, ate it, hands are clean, no residue, blah, blah, blah. There we go. That could have literally happened. There's so many ways that this could have gone. And then the last 2 bits of confusion for me. The police didn't enter the house because 2 reasons. Jeremy expressed to them that she was handy with a gun and that she was in there with a gun. They're not just storming in there, no, because that's dangerous. But also, in the police logs, they noted that they saw somebody in the house. One police officer said it was an unidentified male. Well, that just throws something completely into the mix that was not there before, doesn't it? Other than, was there a hitman? Possibly, but how the hell did he get away? Do you know what I mean? Unless he was hiding in there. But I think they searched it pretty thoroughly, although everything else is just a big fat mess. So maybe he was like in the loft for a day. So anyway, one policeman said it was a unidentified male, but he later said that he was probably mistaken and he thinks it was a trick of the moonlight. Jeremy Bramber maintains that they saw somebody in the house and they all moved away from the house because they saw somebody. Enough people saw this to move away from the property and to call in an armed response unit. And at 5 o'clock-ish in the morning, the armed people were there and they noted that they were speaking to somebody inside the house. Well, where's that piece of evidence then? Who were you speaking to? I want to speak to these people myself, but you said that, but did that not happen then? Why did you say it did? Why did you say you were speaking to someone inside the house? Apparently, they argue that meant they were talking to Jeremy, as in he's an insider. That is absolute bullshit, isn't it? Sorry. Who would write, we were speaking to somebody inside the house, meaning, oh, we got there and we were speaking to Jeremy, who is someone that is from inside the house. What? No, love. Either you've written that like an absolute wally chops and are an imbecile, or you are lying and you were speaking to somebody inside the house. Now, in my mind, okay, this is a scenario that could be true. They arrive, they scout the house. It's also noted when they look in the kitchen that there is 2 bodies. Neville over the chair and a female body. So in my mind, either again, someone's had a brandy or something before they came into work and they're making things up that they saw bodies on the floor and it was really like a pile of coats, or it was Sheila. So they come along, they see Sheila and she's hearing all this noise, so she's just still in the kitchen. Fuck, like, do you know what I mean? Oh my God, you'd be well scared, wouldn't you? They say, two bodies in the kitchen, Roger, right, weird, yeah? That's all noted as well, weird, right? Then they peruse about, and then they're talking to someone inside the house. And also, why didn't they know what they were talking to that person about? That's odd. Like, whatever, the whole thing's crazy. So that's the situation with the body thing in the kitchen. Now, some people believe that Sheila, it was actually like her body in the kitchen, but that she'd shot herself already the first time. Remember, that didn't kill her straight away. And an expert said you could have that wound and get up and walk about for a bit. So some people think that she shot herself in the kitchen, the one lower shot, and then once the officers had looked in and seen her body, she hears everything. That made her like become conscious again, because they think she might have lost consciousness when she got shot herself in the throat. And then the noise of the armed unit woke her up. She then ran up the stairs, the back stairs, and then she went to her mum's bedroom and shot herself and killed herself up there. Blood evidence of her nightgown. Again, you can look online. The blood is all flowing this way, like she was sat up and shot herself and then it all flowed this way. It doesn't suggest that she'd shot herself here and then got up and moved. Who knows? Nobody says they heard any shots though. I don't know what to think. I honestly don't. The thing that too much. The long and the short of it is that so much crucial evidence was missed on the day. So much. I have just realised that I think I've been calling him Bramber the entire time. And it's Bamber. Oh, you live and learn. Bamber. Now it makes sense that her nickname is Bambi. Sophie, that is so bad. That is so bad. Shush. Someone's been watching this going like, Bamber. Bamber every time. Say name. So sorry, my apologies. Anyway, Bamber is a Category A prisoner at Wakefield Prison in Yorkshire. He is a peer partner, which involves helping other prisoners to learn to read and write and things like that. 2001, The Times noted that he was getting given like indulgent treatment at the prison and stuff, like that he was taking GCSEs, he was a prisoner that was allowed a key to his own cell, and that he was doing an art class and he was drawing naked like models and whatever and selling them with an outside agency. Honestly, wouldn't surprise me. It sounds like he's really one of those like manipulative, twist you round his little finger people. Do you know what I mean? So that wouldn't surprise me if that is the case. He has appealed numerous times. He's always maintained his innocence. His grandmother cut him out of a beneficiary in her will, and he made a suit against her for like 1.2 million and wanted to inherit. He felt like he should inherit something from the family, and he wanted her home in Wicks in Essex. That actually went to June's sister. In 2004, the courts dismissed his claim that he was owed like £326,000 from profit from the caravan site. It's like, you're in prison, man. In prison, suave. He's still maintaining relationships with women. Quite a few. There's been some altercations in prison. He says he's defended himself from a knife attack and things like that. In 2019, he claimed that he'd found evidence that he did not commit murders. This was the telephone conversation with the police at 3:27. He was like, I can't have been in two places at once. I couldn't have been at the farm 5-10 minutes before and then at my cottage making that phone call. I'm going to have to file it away in who knows? Because equally, if Jeremy is not the perpetrator, he has no freaking idea what happened, just like the rest of us. And if he is, he's got nothing to lose by maintaining his innocence for the rest of his life, has he? So it's one of those, ultimately an awfully sad end and story for the 5 people that lost their lives that night and their families. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. What is your belief in what happened in the house that night? Is Jeremy guilty? Is he not? You let me know, because I have lost the plot. Okay, so yesterday I did have a gin, and because it was my new gin, I had the same gin that I had the week before, which was the Orient gin, which is beautiful. It's very crisp and beautiful. I paired it with this, which came in my lovely gin box, Fitch and Leeds Indian Tonic, and it was really, really delicious. I had it with ice and a slice. But yeah, it was lovely. That was a really beautiful gin. Too beautiful, you could say. Too strong, 100%. For today, though, I will bid you adieu with my coffee, which is now cold. And thank you very much for joining me for this one and persevering, hopefully, if you're still here. I would love it if you could join me next week for another gin. What? For another true crime story and a glass of gin. Bye!